Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Mood Booster podcast.
This is our first joint streaming episode. It's obviously from us, the Mood Booster podcast, where you're listening now, as well as London Student Network's podcast.
Exactly. This is episode 45, Surviving or Thriving, All Things Studenthood.
Yeah, it's a really good episode. Basically, we won't reintroduce him because we go into that very quickly in the episode.
Yeah.
But we're with Josh from London Student Network. He is an incredible chap. He's doing so many things for the student community in London. All of the student communities across London from all of the different universities. It's a really interesting episode. We dive into what it means to be a student. Things about your identity, transition, all of those sorts of things.
Modern pressures and belonging as well. Yeah. All these things that Marcus and I have been through, but also something that you guys might be going through as well. Yeah. It's a really different episode to ones we usually record, but still we really lean on our pillars that we always go into, whether it's presence and gratitude, that community and connection as well. Yeah. A lot of things that we touch on are really sort of core pillars to what we speak about, but in a different lens because this is our first joint episode as well.
Yeah, and I'll say while it's very much student focused, a lot of the topics ended up being something that things that we universally experience. Yep. Things like comparison, imposter syndrome, all of like transitions in general, all of those things. So yeah, it is for London Student Network obviously and student focus, but I think, to be honest, those discussions we had transcend universally. 100%.
It's actually filmed in King's College in the Entrepreneur Institute. Yeah, really cool. It was such a fun day recording.
Epic.
A absolutely amazing episode. A fantastic conversation. I'm proud of this one. Yeah, genuinely I am.
I absolutely loved it, and you will too.
Definitely. Josh is a great guy, and enjoy the episode.
Enjoy! Today's episode is sponsored by Breezy, a new AI therapy app created by London founder Becky, designed to help you feel understood and make real progress between therapy sessions.
Breezy doesn't try to replace a therapist. Instead, it actually gives you a safe space to talk things through, spot patterns, and get personalized steps you can use in your day-to-day life.
The app remembers what works for you, gives you tasks to try throughout the week, and integrates with your human therapy sessions to help you stay on track.
Built with mental health professionals and currently working with universities towards research and clinical trials, you can also opt in to shape the future of this AI mental health tool.
Use code MOODBOOSTER for 50% off an entire year subscription after a free trial. Just search Talk to Breezy with an I in the App Store today.
Hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
Welcome to a very unique episode.
Buongiorno.
Welcome. This is episode 45, isn't it, for the Mood Booster podcast?
Yes. 45.
Exactly. Well, as I mentioned, this is a very, very unique episode. We, the Mood Booster podcast, are here with the London Student Network with Josh.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Really excited to be here.
Of course.
Delighted. For those of the wonderful Mood Booster community who haven't heard of the London Student Network, what we're trying to do is democratise access to everything student made so that every student in the city can find it. In London, there's 500,000 of us kicking about across 40 different institutions, over 100 campuses. But no one has been as silly as me before to try and put all of that activity in one place.
Love it.
That's what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
Cool.
We thought that we'd come together for this episode and sort of have a unique joint episode where we really reflect on studenthood. The actual title, Surviving or Thriving. We really want to unpack studenthood, the well-being that goes into it, just being an emerging adult and what that transition in your life looks like as well. Mm-hmm. That's what this episode's really going to be, is like a deep dive into studenthood, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. We've been working with LSN, London Student Network, for a minute now, and we love what Josh is doing. So much about bringing people together, finding community is exactly what we're doing here at the Mood Booster as well. So there was just so much synergy. Hence, we wanted to co-host this episode and just chat all things studenthood and what the student experience is. This episode is obviously going out, you're listening to it now, probably if you're listening to it as it goes out towar's the end of January.
New year. 2026.
Happy New Year. Congratulations.
Happy New Year.
Hope everyone's resolutions have stuck.
Yeah.
Well,
they haven't. If they haven't, you're 25 days in.
Yeah.
Get a grip. I'm joking.
That's exactly the pressure we need. But this is the time of year that we know everyone struggles with. It's January. It's cold, dark months. It's the momentum of the new year, new me sort of mindset might be fading. We're going into another cold, dark month, but also as students, there's lots going on, right?
Yeah, some really, really unique struggles. Notably, in January, you become acutely aware of the fact that your entire academic life is about to be decided in a couple of months through exams. You've got your parents and your own pressure bearing down on you to go and get that internship, spring week, job application done, whatever it may be. So I think there are some uniquely added pressures to the student community. But maybe before we get into that, guys, for my listeners on the student scene, wondered if you guys could introduce a bit more about the Mood Booster.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Charlie, take it away.
Well, my name's Charlie. This is my co-founder, co-business partner, Dr. Marcus.
Dr. Marcus, nice to see you all. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
Just Marcus.
It's Dr. Marcus that always comes there. We really see him as the psychologist and me as the philosopher. Those are the rules, aren't they? Those are the sort of roles that we've given ourselves.
Yes, self-appointed titles. Psychologist is a protected term of which I'm not, and a philosopher is a term that...
I've given myself
anyone can call themselves a philosopher these days.
Call me Aristotle. Yes, just bless it. But anyway, we host the Mood Booster podcast. It's part of a larger mission called the Mood Booster. Marcus and I are on a journey to really try and spread accessible well-being and joy through any mean possible, whether it's movement, community, introspection, or just general presence and gratitude. We have a few pillars that make up the Mood Booster, but as I mentioned, our mission is really to have well-being and joy as accessible as possible. It's not these high wins, it's the little joys found in the everyday, and we want to spread that message in as many channels as possible. Sure. We have the Mood Booster podcast, which is basically a weekly deep dive into any topic, whether it's regret, criticism, positive self-talk. And for this week, we are joined, as we mentioned, by the lovely Josh to really go into studenthood and what that looks like as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Hope I did well there.
Brilliantly summarised.
Thank you very much.
Say more. I don't think I need
Trademark.
But yeah, I think for the student community that's listening that will be here from LSN, we, like I said, we're just really connected with LSN from many facets, but really about the community and finding community and looking after one another and building that community around us. We're two people that live in London and have done for many years, and we've worked really hard to sort of curate a community around us, not only individually but through the Mood Booster. So really exciting to be here and to be sharing these experiences.
Amazing. And I think that's something to maybe stress as well, is that even if you guys are maybe outside of the student world yourselves, everything you do is open to everyone here in the city, much like us as well. So definitely. You guys were talking earlier when we were doing some Vox Pops about your Monday Run Club as well.
Oh the Monday Mood Booster Run Club. That's actually Marcus founded it a couple of years ago, didn't you?
Yeah. So there's numerous reasons why I founded it. I won't, for the sake of our topic today, go into all of them, but ultimately I just wanted to find a club that was super inclusive, but also brought people together and was built by a community as opposed to a huge, fitness brand that was being like, oh, this is our run club and this are the times and these are our paces and do as we say and that's it.
Yeah.
They're great and we love them and I love them and I go to them, but I was missing that sort of really community-led, inclusive feel to run clubs. So I was like, I can't find any, I'm just going to make one. So on a Monday evening, if you start your week well, the thinking is you're more likely to then succeed throughout the rest of the week, feel accomplished on a Tuesday morning. Last night was an amazing night, feel really good. You go through the rest of the week with that momentum. So we all come together, just run whatever pace we need to. Truly, we have walk breaks if we need to. And it just really helps people sort of feel they can approach running from any sort of level, and it's a lovely little community we've built there. I say little, there's loads of them now and they're amazing people. So if any of you are listening and are dabbling or tempted to get into running, you're more than welcome to come along on a Monday evening.
And I think that's maybe the key thing to stress, is that if you aren't a runner and it's maybe your New Year's resolution to become one, this is probably the club to start with. You mentioned earlier you run at the kind of slowest person's pace, you take walking breaks, all of that kind of stuff. So as someone for me who's been out of the cardio game for some time, that's quite an attractive offer.
Have you there? Definitely, 100%.
Oh, I don't know. I might come up with some tactical excuse. Well,
speaking of actually, something that we always do with our guests, and our listeners will very much know this by now, is to sort of get to know you a bit more behind the London Student Network, to get to know Josh. We always ask, what is one thing that you're working on for yourself right now?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I'm so glad that you guys asked me this before we became live, so yeah, just think about it. I think for me, so much of my life has been really characterised by extremes, by real extremes, and I have always been someone who's wanted to go and grab every opportunity and really run with it, make the most of that opportunity. And the only way that I can kind of facilitate all of that energy going out into all these different places is by when I'm kind of being a recluse, when I have the me time. I think I can go maybe a little bit too extreme into kind of like regressing into my own cocoon, not being as social as I can be, and sort of exhibiting this duality to my person of, the people who know me, that work in my teams, etc. They'd say, oh, what an outgoing guy, like he's so connected to all these people. But the reality is I can kind of only maintain that from having this much more kind of like closed side to me. And I think broadly, due to some health issues that I had when I was much younger, and I really wasn't doing too much, anytime where I'm not running at 100 miles an hour, I feel this really deep level of anxiety. And I think it's something that so many students can relate to. You've got this very small 3-4 year finite window where you can make yourself, or in theory break yourself if you were that way inclined. And I think it's probably good for most students to do a bit of both, to be honest. And so I think what I'm really trying to work on now is accepting the parts of myself that I know to be different from that which society is kind of ordained to be good about what you do. Wow. So I, for instance, I'm a night owl. Always have been. Was born at like 4 a.m. in the morning, and that tends to be the only time that I get tired, right? Yeah. That obviously manifests in not being a morning person. And so I think one of these big issues I have is that I've always, really tried to be this morning person. It just doesn't work. I then really, repeatedly beat myself up about it. All the while I know that the best work I do is between 1 and 4 a.m. So I think really for me, it's just coming to absolute terms and really accepting the fact that it's okay to be different, and for me to live my life in this like unconventional, non-societally acceptable way, if it's what produces better results, not just for my achievements, efficacy, but for me as a person, my overall sense of kind of satisfaction with myself, I suppose.
So it's the talk that you have with yourself about your differences is really...
I think so. Yeah. Like, the reality is when I wake up at 11 a.m., like I texted you guys today at 12, I'd woken up at half 11.
I love it.
Sent me a text at 8 a.m., right? Yeah. And you're probably sat there thinking, oh, what the bloody hell is he doing? But then I was up until 4 editing videos, like tweaking this and that. And it's just, I kind of just live my life at a slightly different pace. Sometimes that's really like that bit faster than other people. Sometimes it's slower. And I became really kind of obsessed with this idea of like, why am I different? Like, why do these normal things not work for me? Why is a 9 to 5 so scary? And it led me down a big rabbit hole, had some really, really big influential conversations, but actually led to an ADHD diagnosis probably about this time last year. And then since then, I've been able to kind of look at literature that's actually, more relevant for me and my brain. Yep. I think it's a very classic symptom of ADHD, that putting yourself down, knowing the kind of potential that you can hold, the ambition that you can amass to, but then looking at what you're actually doing in that moment and thinking, hang on, I'm a couch potato. And so, just sort of understanding that I am a bit different and actually seeing that as a strength rather than something that I kind of need to mask, lie about, or kind of hide away from.
Yeah.
So it's really been empowering, that experience over the last year, and helping you sort of, find that compassion for yourself.
I think so. I mean, absolutely, it's still a work in progress.
100%.
And when I wake up like at 11 and I see you guys text me at 8, I feel like an awful person. I feel like a slob, right?
I'm like, that wasn't the intention. The fact that you're able to observe that though in the moment and see that, and then also know, hey, this is something that I want to work on. Not is the fact that you're waking up late, going to bed late as well, is the fact that you're able to say, okay, challenge your own thoughts, know that you're not those thoughts, and also begin to say, hey, I'm going to practice a far more self-loving path as well. That's the only thing that one can do in any sort of situation. So the fact that you're already aware of it sounds like you're miles ahead of where you think you are. So that's huge.
The most difficult step for sure. So
and I'm sure both of you have already mentioned this on previous episodes, but I feel compelled to return the question. Like, what are you guys both working on?
Wow, that's great.
Practically, Spanish lessons.
Oh, you took it from me.
Sorry to come out of that a little bit.
That's okay.
From a more of a practical stance. Well, both of us are having individually Spanish lessons, so they are going well, I would say.
Sí,
it's difficult.
Muy bien.
Something that I guess then delving deeper into that, I'm someone who, in many areas of my life, lacks a lot of confidence, and I have grown up with a mindset of very much. I feel like I'm bad at things before I even try them.
Yeah.
And I
putting yourself in a box before you've even arrived at the
exactly
box depot.
Yes, exactly. I love that analogy. Yeah,
The box depot, that whole thing.
And as such, before I've even given it a go, I've got that self-fulfilling prophecy, and as such, can be a vicious cycle. So I have been really working on, through the Spanish lessons, just leaning into the vulnerability of it, and leaning into the discomfort of finding comfort in the discomfort. And I'm not supposed to be amazing, and like it's okay.
Yeah.
And my brain isn't supposed to be able to recall all these words immediately, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to be able to, and I'm not deterministic about it. And like I'm trying to work on just having patience and compassion with that, and knowing that that's okay, and it's part of the experience of learning, and it's exciting
for sure. And chances are, the harder it is, the better it's acting for
exactly.
you, the more good it's generating.
100%. But one forgets that I forget that when I'm in the moment, and I'm just impatient for it, and I'm like, no, I need to know now. And actually, part of everything that we're continually trying to do is the presence and gratitude.
Yeah.
And actually, let me just be present in the experience of learning, because how beautiful is it that I can be bad, so then I can learn. So but I'm working on that, and it takes continuous work to be able to remind myself, because in the moment when I can't recall a word to my Spanish teacher, I'm just like constantly battling in my brain of like, you're just an idiot, you don't know these things. And it also, Charlie, I see him, he's got, it's not comparison, but another thing I work on is not comparing, because like everyone's different. But Charlie, has had Spanish lessons for longer potentially, and is amazing at recording. And
it's very unfair, Charlie.
I sit with the pride and like the excitement for him for being amazing, while also sometimes being like, it's frustrating that I can't be that good, which is a normal human thing, but also on me to challenge that and be like, that's okay that I'm not that good. I can be good at it in the future, for example, and I have a completely different brain, a different background, and all of those things.
And I think that's really such a powerful analogy to show, like, we kind of forget in the modern world where dopamine is a touch away, that actually to become good at things, there is this like long linear process that takes months and months, and not years and years, to really master any specific skill. And I think that's a really powerful story, because it points to a kind of higher pleasure, if that makes sense, where you might actually get more satisfaction, even if it produces short-term harm.
Yes.
If you were to spend 200 hours learning Spanish, then 200 hours on Clash Royale or TikTok, for instance.
Clash Royale's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Oh my God, the feeling of deferred gratification when you've put in all of whatever it is, that work, and the however long, the resilience of sitting, I don't know, for example, at work, my actual job, I'm doing spreadsheet after spreadsheet at the moment, data input after data input, thousands of data being inputted by hand.
Yes.
And whenever I finish a sheet, I'm like, that's taken me days, but it feels incredible to have that. It's that deferred gratification. That's just one very arbitrary example.
Yes.
But,
but it speaks to the larger whole, 100%.
Charlie?
Wow. Couple fantastic
How are you going to
answers
follow
there.
that one?
My handwriting. I'm learning to write, guys. No, for me, I mean, all those themes that you guys were covering were very much resonated quite heavily with. I think if it all boils down to, I think you did mention their presence, but for me, a huge part of that is trying to really fall in love with everything that I'm doing. I traditionally, in my life, the patterns I've seen or witnessed is that whilst I'll be enjoying something I'm doing, I will very often have the end result in mind and sort of go through the motions quicker than I probably actually want to be doing that. In order to, it's a means to an end. Exactly that. And I think what I'm learning is that these moments will always pass by. The result might always be different, and the result might not actually arrive. And it's learning to fall in love with the game, basically, of just doing. For instance, with what we're doing here, it would be so easy to sort of fall in love with the idea of that so many students are listening, so many people listening, and we help all these people, which would be lovely in itself. But the actual part to fall in love with what I'm learning is the fact I'm here with you two now, the fact that we are curating this, and that comes with sheer presence and having to ground myself, whether it is touching my fingers or feeling the actual chair I'm sitting in. It's realizing I'm in this moment, and this has all come from our own creativity and action, and it's so accessible in any moment should I allow myself to feel it. And sometimes when the motions are going by and the days are busy, I forget that for weeks on end, which can actually be quite sad, because I realise, God, the whole month's gone by and so much amazing stuff's happened, but I'm still looking forward to that next point. And the funny thing is, if I look back a year, I was probably looking forward to this point right now. But now I'm in this point, I'm looking forward to the next point. So it's just the presence is drawing me away from that future point and bringing me back to the current moment. It's something that we talk about in everything that we do. It's often not that easy. So it's just remembering what it's all for is the now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's really, really hard. 100%. And I think it's something that I absolutely could be doing better with. I think it's a common trope of anyone who is wanting to kind of move forward in this life is that you're thinking very much in terms of the future. You're maybe trying to glean a couple of lessons from the past. And as a result, your present is a means to future ends rather than just the actual lived experience in and of the moment. And
an interesting dilemma, sorry to cut you off there, an interesting thing I sort of battle with is, would we be so productive if we were so present in the moment? Would we be sort of chasing these amazing things if we were so happy in the current moment of what we had? Is that possible to have that? I see you a very high achieving person. You're very busy. After this you have a call. Before this you were in meetings and stuff. Would that level of activity be there if you were truly present? I don't know.
I feel like it's always towing a very fine line, and will always be for forevermore. I think you agree. We're always becoming, we never become, and we're always we're always working towards goals while also practicing trying to be present. They're not mutually exclusive, but also we won't be able to just do one or the other. And for me to be able to function and be happy and prosperous and things, I want to have purpose and I want to have those goals, but at the same time I need to balance those goals and that purpose and that drive with, well, that's all over there, but that all won't matter if I'm not also here in this very moment. And it's a constant tow of balancing of those two things at the same time, which I feel like with resilience, your mental health, fatigue, all of those things, sometimes that balance isn't well done. Like you said, sometimes you can go for a whole month without finding it.
100%. I think maybe a practical mechanism for this, and it's not something that I'm particularly good at practicing, but is compartmentalization. Is recognizing that in these hours I'm doing work, and that in these hours if I'm thinking about work, then I'm not relaxing. I'm just completely cordoning your life off in a really disciplined way. In that sense can be a good way to do it.
100%.
If you're the type of person who likes to work all the time and you follow kind of your natural rhythms and flows as to when you want to work, then take advantage of that. But the critical part of it is that you cannot beat yourself up when you're not doing the work. So I think in answer to your question, would I be more productive if I was living in the moment? Probably not. Because I'd be thinking about I'm living in the moment. The best way to live in the moment is by not working on something that is inherently building something for the future or some bigger plan. So how do we live in the moment? It's about doing something that is intrinsically a good thing to do in that moment, even if it has no future dividends or rewards or anything like that. So I think actually on a really human level, that just looks like sat down with your friends, having a real conversation, being attentive and pure to it, knowing that there's no outcomes, profits to be made of it, anything like that. It's just an intrinsic, this is good because I'm a human and we're pack animals and we're social and I need these relationships. So I don't know. I don't know if I am more productive. I think the reality is that if I get asked for a pint or something because I'm working in the present, as it were, I'm that seems presently like a very good idea to go and do and probably follow the pint trail.
Absolutely.
But it also poses the question of, and I don't want to be that guy, but let's define then productivity. So how are we measuring productivity? You're saying if you're being in the moment and present, then are you more or less productive? Well, by what metric are we talking about productivity?
It's true.
Anyway, I think all of those things, we're talking about presence here, we're talking about self-compassion, I feel like we were speaking about as well. All of those things I know, I might look, I don't know how I look, but I'm not that far away from being a student. Only a few years from my undergraduate, maybe less so, but still. All of those things are student experience, right? Things that we know, whether through lived experience, or me teaching students now, or working with students now, you through the London Student Network, and having been a student very recently. Likewise, Charlie, young whippersnapper you are.
There you go.
These are things that students experience. The questions around what am I doing? Am I being productive? A lot of things about self-talk, and positive or negative, but predominantly probably negative self-talk. A huge thing that we spoke to today, even we did interviews with students and spoke to students at King's today, was about identity and finding one's identity at university. University, for the majority of people in undergraduate, but not even just undergraduate, postgraduate as well, it comes at a time of emerging adulthood. 18 to 25, emerging adulthood, a time when developmentally we are finding a lot about ourselves, our development absolutely skyrockets, and just we're all over the place in finding who we are, our social circles, our passions, our drives, all of those things. Emerging adulthood, studenthood. Anyone got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think two main things that every student should bear in mind throughout their student life. Number one, to take like the big picture approach, look at like humanity as a whole in relation to this. Homo sapiens sapiens, our specific like breed of human, we've been kicking around for about 300,000 years. Arguably, you could say about 6 million with different ancestors and stuff like that. Compulsory education has been around for about 150 years, up until the age of about 14.
Snippet of it.
In the UK alone, through Benjamin Disraeli Education Act and stuff like that. So that's about 0.001% of human history that children have been expected to sit in a room from 9 to 5, learn all of these things in this hyper-structured way that is in reality completely different to how we would learn in the class, through practice, through doing, through verbal communication with elders and respected people in whatever local community you had. So I think the reality for every student is that if you happen to be good in school, congratulations, you are a freak of nature. You are genetically doing something slightly different to what has always been done in the past. If you're bad at school, great. You're a human. That's how we're meant to live. We're not meant to be good at school and being sat in these classrooms. And so recognize that is the case and that your utility is not defined by the grades, which is really my second point of from the moment that you're in school, you're 4 years old, you're given a seating plan, you're told to sit where you are for lunch, you're given your timetable, and every aspect of your day is militantly planned. That carries on all the way to the moment that you're 18 and you've had to pick your GCSEs that might determine your degree that you can go and do at 13, 14. And chances are you've only done those subjects because you had a particularly encouraging teacher that you either liked, they liked you, or they told you that you were good, creating this kind of positive reinforcement cycle that attracts you towards a particular subject. So I think that has kind of two effects. Number one is that we can identify ourselves as a humanities student, a science student, whatever it may be, and we can pin ourselves into these academic boxes that maybe has no real bearing on like who we are as students. And when we speak to people in freshers, that first question, who are you, what's your name, where are you from, and what degree do you do? These are three of the worst questions you can ask someone if you want to understand someone, right? But they are immediately the labels that people start to identify and put on to students. The reality is we're humans, we're multifaceted, we have all of these different angles and interests, and our course might just be the closest thing we align to. It might be that which our parents wanted us to do. It might even just be because I didn't want to do anything else and this seemed vaguely acceptable. So I think distancing yourself from academic validation due to grades because you've just been militarily pushed through all of this rigid system where your entire self-worth has been determined by how many A's you get, and you get any C's, D's, whatever it may be. And remembering that when you come to university, this is your chance to break free of all of those molds. And I think I found that really hard initially. I think I'd been able to kind of ignore that underlying ADHD in school because I had regime. I had class
Structure.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And it meant that I never really had to think. And I was just following the trodden path. And then when you get to uni, and I think this is the biggest thing that I noticed is like, holy shit, freedom. What do I do with all of this time, right? And I think in first year, the answer is go and piss about. Meet as many people as you can. You've got zero responsibilities. Your degree counts for nothing in first year. And you've got all of this time. And really, like, in a world where everyone is doing a degree, it's no longer a question of what did you get in your degree, but what did you do during your degree? Who did you meet? What did you become? What experiences did you take under your belt?
100%.
So remembering that, you've applied for an academic course at an academic institution, but that is a portal for you becoming a person should you want it to be the case.
Yeah, definitely.
That labeling resonates so hard, even just not in school, but even in university, how damaging it can actually be. Coming out of university, this is maybe something that some of the students who are listening might not know yet. Something I've experienced is actually putting such a strong label on your degree to your own identity,
For sure.
especially exiting university thinking, well, I need to surely pursue this career. I need to be doing this here. If that isn't the case, you're left with your identity in crumbles. Like, it's just not there. And the damage that can do is labeling yourself, well, surely I need to be on this path. Surely this is what all my all my co-students are doing. This is what my professors have told me.
Yeah, this is the alumni path
This is the
that
alumni
they've shown
path.
us and all of that.
And if I don't, what does that mean for me? Have I failed? Have I not listened hard enough? Have I not learned? Am I not meant for this career? Am I not good enough? All these things are called into question, which is why protecting your identity to who you are, not what you study or what you do as a job, is that distinction is really important. I do feel.
We literally spoke to someone today who immediately said his degree, but was like, but I don't like it and I'm not going to be good at it because I don't like it. For me, as someone who, there's two things to this, but who's someone who teaches students in the same sort of capacity, and you immediately came back to him with, well, all of those transferable skills that you'll have from that, you don't have to define yourself as that degree and what you'll do. There's so many companies that would love to have you, but just based on the transferable skills and anything else you might get from this degree. But there's that in itself. But I have that experience from the psychology background. Psychology is so difficult to get into professionally, more difficult than medicine, more competitive than medicine, and it's also I can't remember who said it. The Times, maybe someone said it's an endangered career, because by the time people can get into it, they want to start going part-time because of family commitments and all of those sorts of things, because it literally takes until your late 20s to be able to start to qualify in psychology. And students so much within the psychology field define themselves by, I want to become a clinical psychologist or a forensic psychologist. And we get this tunnel vision, and my cohort in my master's, everyone was like, okay, what's your route going to be to becoming a clinical psychologist? Right, you're going to be an assistant psychologist here, and you're going to do this next. And it's such like a real rat race. I'm on this treadmill, I've got to get there. And I'm defining myself by this journey. Yeah. And I was so fortunate to have my program leader sort of sit us all down. And it really resonated with me. And I took on the advice and as such managed to look laterally. But she was like, stop looking at that end goal and just think about all of the opportunities that you might have just by what you're doing here, and how you might follow what you enjoy and what interests you. Stop just thinking, oh, I can only get into clinical psychology by becoming an assistant psychologist and getting this one role, because you're pigeonholing yourself, if that's the right phrase, and you're completely limiting opportunities, and you're limiting all of the lateral noise around here that can bring so much opportunity from our lens as well, joy in your life. And I was really grateful that she said that, and that really resonated with me, because I was like, I'm not going to have this tunnel vision, because in having that tunnel vision, I'm identifying myself as this one thing and this one career pathway, and until I get it, I'm not going to be happy. Unfortunately, I completely let go of it and allowed myself to look laterally, and therefore I never became a clinical psychologist, but I'm more than happy. I'm extremely content now.
Oscar Wilde said wrote a quote about, how lucky people are to not, if you don't fall into the category of, for instance, a doctor or a lawyer, a typical job where you're doing something for that whole time. How lucky are you because you get to be a person doing that? So for instance, I right now am podcasting, or I am selling, for instance. I'm not a podcaster, I'm not a salesperson, whatever it is.
Verbal noun.
It's a verbal noun. You are not that thing, you're a person doing it. And we become so fortunate when we take ourselves away from that noun, because we distance ourselves from that job, the possibility of that becoming our identity.
Some psychology for you.
Go on then.
Psychology, social identity theory is just that.
Okay.
We are beings that want to we need to anchor ourselves in identity. We're innately driven to...
An onion with layers.
we need to anchor ourselves in an identity. We need to do that. And according to the social identity theory, we do that by social labels that we know to be true and to be there and tangible in reality.
Sure.
So therefore,
to join communities, institutions, religion,
engineering or psychologist or podcaster, those are all social groups that we can put meaning to and say, this is a social group that I can identify myself with, and therefore find values in, shared values, connection, community, all of those things that give us an identity as a human being that we're wired to do. That has so many benefits, but also, as we're starting with, some
it
drawbacks.
Makes things very quick, easy to understand. You can put people in boxes, but those boxes are exactly the problem. And I think maybe something that I found to be true is, we've got the concept of like a husband and a wife, a boyfriend and girlfriend, and girlfriend, whatever it may be. No two relationships have ever been the same, because no two people have ever been the same. Sure, it might exhibit the traditional characteristics of a friendship, of a romantic relationship. The reality is that all that exists is whatever chemistry, romantic or not, exists between these two people. And sure, it may be a friendship, but the actual nuance beneath it is so much bigger and so much deeper. Yeah, and I think in terms of sort of bringing this back maybe to students then, it's about your ability to separate yourself from your course, separate yourself from what like the expectations of your cohort are, for instance, and to look at your life and not be completely sold on an abstract path that you probably decided that you wanted to do when you were 12 or 13, had 4 or 5 years of massive developmental experiences that you kind of neglected to take into account. If you decided you were going to be that doctor at 13, so you pick all the sciencey GCSEs, and then by the time you get to 18, you realise, oh my God, the world of philosophy is so cool. You're doing yourself an injustice by not recognizing that and by not allowing that change. And maybe as a personal example, and I think I mentioned this to you guys earlier, like I was adamant, absolutely adamant that I was going to go to Oxford. I was lucky. I was one of these freak of natures in school. I did okay. I did like the best I could do in my grades every single like step. And so it seemed really natural to me that if I'd done as well as I could in school, then I need to go and do as well as I can at the best academic institution in the world, so I can go and do as well as I can at one of the best jobs or companies in the world, right? And you see this really, really linear path unfolding. And what actually happened, despite my 3-4 interviews that I had at these colleges, I didn't get in. I remember on the day, I was absolutely mortified because my entire life plan had just crumbled before me. But I'd put that plan in the hands of other people rather than putting it back in myself. And so there'd been this joke circulating around my family that if I didn't get into Oxford, I would go to culinary school. Everyone found like a creative release in lockdown instead. And so there I went to culinary school, this complete random tangent, completely unrelated to anything studenty whatsoever. But that 6-month period on the intensive course was the most formative of my life. First of all, it brought me to London, and that's where I realised this is where I want to be. I love being, the only English person at the table, having this massive influx of different experience, whatever it may be. And it's really the people that I took from that, not so much the French swear words and the cooking techniques and all this different stuff. It was the people. And weirdly, it was on the day that the Ukraine war broke out. That I felt like the kind of liberal order that I'd been raised on had just been completely erased by one man's belligerence just entering into a different country. And I was speaking quite vocally to the people in my culinary school cohort, one of which happened to be an English diplomat. He was like, oh, Josh, I didn't know that you were like so passionate about this. I'm like, yeah, I quite like my politics. And he says, oh, well, this is something that you're interested in, then so many of my colleagues and loads of people who work in crazy cool stuff like MI5, MI6 have done this degree at King's, war studies in history. And so I'm like, all right, Joe, I'll entertain you. I'll check it out.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Buddy pal.
Yeah. A level of skepticism because obviously I'm forging my own path now.
I'm in culinary school, Joe.
Yeah,
what do you think I'm trying to do?
Yeah. And so I check out the degree and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, no, this sounds absolutely perfect. And I get into King's. I forget about Oxford entirely. And then since I've started at uni, everything that I've done that is at all unique to me, my CV, my experience, my worldview, is only possible as a result of having been in London. KCL Politics Society, largest London political student-led community, London student networks, London university bouldering events. My life, it was kind of destined to be here. And the opportunities that I've made that have really made me have flowed purely as a result of not doing the thing that I really wanted to do.
How funny.
Even LSN, for instance, I had never viewed myself as an entrepreneur in any way. That was not a world that at all felt accessible. And then it was literally just through having a couple of conversations from connections I'd made from events that I didn't really want to go to or hadn't planned to go to and just said yes, that I had this nice big network of different presidents, spoke to a few of them. And by the time I'd finished my conversations, the ones who I spoke to first were calling me the founder of a London student network. And I was like, right, looks like we've got to go and pull my finger out.
I like that title, yeah.
Yeah, that works for me. Yeah.
Founder's got quite a nice ring to it.
It does okay, doesn't it? That's okay. Massively improves my my LinkedIn SEO. So
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's a perfect example of taking yourself out of that tunnel vision of this is my own destiny and my only destiny, and just following an interest, following a nose, following a community or a person, and just saying, let's see what happens. And it's easier said than done. I appreciate, it does require being sort of outgoing in some contexts and, finding those sorts of things. But that's what things like London Student Network are here for in the first place. But it is about that sort of not letting go of your identity and who you align with and those sorts of things, but not also fully letting it define every part of your being. And allowing yourself that open-mindedness and that, I guess, exploration to learn about yourself, because we don't know us. I'm learning about myself every single day, and I don't think I'll ever stop learning about myself, and that's what's exciting. And in having that sort of open mind to do so, you then find yourself being the founder of London Student Network without even planning for it, and that's the beauty of it.
And
all of these things we plan for. Just
no idea what comes next. All I know is it will be something that I've never thought of.
Is that not so exciting though?
Exactly.
Yeah. I never thought I'd be hosting a podcast. I truly didn't. I'm not going to go into my journey, but it started at marine conservation, ocean science, and now we're here. So, but that's so beautiful because it's stuff you couldn't have imagined. And the connections along the way as well. I really want to sort of pivot here, but what you've explained is a really interesting journey into London specifically. You're not from London, you're from Derby, aren't you? That is where you're born and raised.
I am, even if I don't sound it.
Even if you don't sound it,
you are a real number on my accent.
Something that Marcus and I actually spoke about fairly recently. We actually did a webinar on finding joy in London, finding your community based in London itself. It can often feel quite difficult. Having been born and raised in London myself, even I could see that it's difficult to find your community, find people who you resonate with in such a big city. I know there's a paradox that you want to speak on, Marcus, here, which is really quite interesting. But it's that belonging. It's really sort of relating to the belonging and the sort of loneliness factor that one can feel in London specifically. I'm sure there are many students who feel that. I know you obviously so big into connecting people with societies. Something that we speak a huge part on is the community. I really want to delve into students-wise how we can begin to look at, that feeling of belonging or that feeling of loneliness as well.
Well, I'm going to speak about the density anonymity paradox. Kind of is what it says on the tin, but putting it simply, you're in arguably one of the most densely populated places on Earth, while feeling the most anonymous and unknown and unseen and unconnected you've ever felt.
The denser the city, the more lonely you are.
Yes. For you and your experience as being a student leading London Student Network, what do you think makes it hard for students to build networks and friendships in London?
Sure. I think a lot of it feels like there's some continuity from school. Let's say you're a day late to freshers. It feels as though the people who have already met each other are the best friends in the world, that they've made these like tight-knit barriers that you can't quite connect through. The reality is that when you come to university, especially in a city like London, no one knows anyone and everyone wants to be your friend. And that's the easiest way to remember it. It doesn't matter who you are, how you are. And if there's someone who doesn't want to talk to you because of, who you are, how you are, they're not going to be your friend anyway. So ignore them and don't let them bring you down, basically. And I think this was a question that was a real impetus as to why we started this whole project. We took a big kind of market research form out to London, and we found that actually only 47% of students feel represented by the societies at their university. So say you're from a kind of underrepresented nation, like a recent kid I was speaking to was, for instance, Bangladeshi. There's no Bangladeshi society, for instance, at SOAS. So why doesn't he go and join the Bangladeshi society at King's, for instance? Because that's the point of unity for those guys. It's not like the sense of academic belonging, really. And I think it's also the recognition that, again, you're completely free. Not all of your friends have to be students. Something that I found as a real bedrock for me that I think enabled me to be so confident and to connect with so many more people was I had my existing friends from culinary school. The people who I knew I could kind of, let's go Joe, honestly. Like the people Joe. I could turn to when shit hit the fan, and shit did hit the fan. And there were issues in relationships that I had to work through over the last kind of 3-4 years of my degree. But I think if you are lucky enough to identify 2, 3, maybe even 4 people that are your kind of ride or dies, that you really think you've made a strong and powerful connection with, allow those connections to empower you to be confident in other interactions and avoid those really, really basic questions of who are you, what do you study, but directly compliment someone. Try and get to the core of what their identity is beyond just their degree. Where did you get this necklace? How long have you been living in London? What's your biggest shock? Where are you living? Would you prefer to live somewhere else? How did you get your flat? Were you shafted by the rental market? Just anything that is going to actually enable you to have an open conversation, I think will be so good. Especially if you're like an A-level student and you're just coming into London, then just remember everyone wants to be your friend in the same way you want everyone to be your friend. And it's a really, really powerful bonding tool. And I think use clubs, use societies, say yes to every single event that you possibly can do, and just be really, really confident. This is your chance to, if you were bullied in school, for instance, and you were told that you are this person, you're XYZ, and these are the names that kind of mentally stick with you for the rest of your life. No one has any idea. No one has a clue. No one knows what is normal social interaction because they've just left school with 100 people that they've seen every day for the last 10, 15 years where nothing has ever changed and societal attitudes have been set in that small locality. So know the world is a really big place and that there is a place for you in that world. You've just got to iterate and work your way through to find wherever that may be. And it's also okay to be fluid. Sometimes you might outgrow your friends, they might outgrow you, whatever it may be, but just keep those 1, 2, maybe 3 people core. Invest so much of your time and energy into those relationships. Say yes to everything they bring you along to, and before you know it, you've got a massive, expansive network.
Yeah. I think something that's also really important within that, and to emphasize, is that in London, obviously, Charlie and I, we both went to sort of campus-based or local community-based universities, Southampton, Plymouth, where, you had your square where all the students were, the union was there, the bar was there, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
In London, in line with the density anonymity paradox, there's millions of people all around. And it's extremely overwhelming, deer in headlights, coming from A-levels. I've just moved into this random flat. How on earth am I going to find people? More important than potentially those more campus-based universities, reach out to your student unions. Find literally here the London Student Network. Those sorts of services and infrastructures that are already in place. Make the most of them because they are there, and otherwise it can feel like I didn't have that experience myself, but even just as an emerging adult who moved to London when he was 21, I know that feeling of I want to make new connections but I have no idea where to start. Find those clubs, find those societies with using such directories as your student unions and LSN, for example. They are there. It might feel like it's less organic as just a square in your local town, but it is doable. And like you say, that compliment, that ask someone that random question, it is doable.
And if you're someone who, feels really socially awkward, or you've had a bad experience of making friends at school, or you lack that level of self-confidence, gamify it. Say, I'm going to speak to 3 people at this event.
I like that.
And I've got these 3 pre-prepared questions. And once I've done that, I can leave and I've achieved whatever mission I've set out tonight.
Side
or
quest.
You go with a friend and you say, let's compete with how many people we can speak to, how many conversations we can have, something like that. And also, if you've got a quirk, embrace it. This is your chance to do so. If you know that you've always been that little bit funky, that bit sort of zesty, then this
weird.
is your time to release the pit, as it were, basically.
Yes.
So, for instance, one of my absolute best friends, one of those ride or dies that I mentioned, I met him, fortunately, on the first day of university. And maybe this is, there are some lessons that can be gleaned from this story. So, as said, I took a year out, which meant that most of my friends from school had gone and experienced uni. On the drive down to London, as I was moving into my accommodation, I called up my friends. I was like, guys, what freshers tips have you got? How can I win freshers?
How do I win?
How do I win? And they were like, look, mate, you can't win freshers. Dampen your expectations.
You're over, buddy.
But what you can do is put in a good shift, go to as many things as you can, and just say yes. All the very generic, basic advice. And what was clear to me is that London required a deeper level of proactivity than other cities in the world.
Yes.
Just geographically, chances are, even if you're from the same university, King's is unique in that you've got an accommodation in Vauxhall and then an accommodation in Stratford. How are these 2 communities meant to be mixing with each other? So,
do you actually have Stratford and Vauxhall?
Stratford and Vauxhall. There's one in Battersea as well.
Is it actually? It's
all
across London then?
So really all across London.
Wow.
And what I kind of thought as a result of that was crap, that sounds like I'm going to have to go to a lot of places. But this accommodation that I was in, it was the first year that it had been built. So we were the very first people to sleep there, to be there, which was really cool. And so I thought, do you know what? My flat is probably going to be of the same mindset of me, where they're just going to say yes to anything. So I'll introduce myself, I'll try and make friends with everyone, and then I'll suggest to the flat that we host the first flat party of the entire building's history.
Nice.
And of course they all say yes.
Chris in the
Like
flat.
you don't want to be that flat member who's like, no, let's not host this. It's
I'm sleeping tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut
Like,
up.
on the first day of uni, you've got a lot of carte blanche, and if you're someone, even if it's not natural or innate in your ability, there's this big thing called like first mover advantage. It's a whole phenomenon for the entire world, but it's big in friendships. And so if you open the pack, you turn up with your bottle of tequila and you offer everyone in your flat a shot, or if you don't drink, you've got some tea or local chocolates or Indian sweets. Whatever, Indian sweets are so good.
I have once.
So
Yeah.
And use that as a means of galvanizing people, get them all in the same room, and you come up with a simple suggestion of something you could do, even if that's going to the pub, going on a flat walk. Taking that first leap into trying to kind of organize a community means that you are someone people will want to speak to. And I think that was a big thing for me. It was like I was conscious that I had all of these things that I wanted to do at uni, so I didn't necessarily wanting to be going everywhere, but I wanted to see kind of how can people come to me in a way. So I suggested we host the first flat party of the building, and then the day after, because everyone's got their freshers wristbands for the clubs, etc., in Freshers Week, the day after we would invite the people who we like from the party back to host prees before we then go out to the club.
Nice,
to kind of
very
cement
smart.
those friendships, basically. And so that had the effect of three things, I think. Number one, it meant that me and my entire flat then went around the accommodation, knocked on everyone's door, said hi to as many people as we could, inviting them to this party. Immediately that meant on the first day we had probably spoken to more people than any other King student, as far as we were concerned, or could tell. We then had loads of people piling up into our flat, which meant, oh, you're from 1104? No way. I heard 1104 is like the party flat. That's so cool. People want to be your friends. And then the third effect was... just like meeting. I met two of the people that I now live with on that first night, or live with throughout university.
That's really cool.
And so the example I bring of that ride or die friend and embracing your quirk was he just got back from some post A-level holiday in like Magaluf, where him and his friends had bought, the little captain hats, the sort of sailor hats.
Oh yeah.
So it's now about 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. My flat's getting a bit weary, bit tired. So they installed a new policy that is, unless you have alcohol, you can't come in, which is obviously not the most inclusive. It wasn't my policy.
Wow.
Blame the girls in my flat on that one, but so be it. And he turns up kind of after that sort of cut off, and he's got the captain's hat on. So the girls open the door. They're like, "Who are you? Where's your alcohol? Sorry, no, you can't come in." And he just says, and I'm standing like on the far end of the corridor, just vaguely overhearing it. He just says, "But I'm the captain." And I hear that and I'm like, which audacious prick on the first day of uni is rocking up with a captain hat? I need to know this man.
Let me shake your hand. Let me shake your hand.
Let me shake your hand. And funnily enough, it was on that, within half an hour of meeting each other, we realised how similar we were. And we said, look, Ben, you and I could either potentially like compete throughout uni and go for the same sort of community leader positions, or, and this is really like, you read into this as a bad thing, but he was kind of more interested in the journalism. I was sort of more interested in the political practice, as it were. So I said, Ben, you go and be editor-in-chief of Raw News. This is like the second biggest student publication in the whole of the UK. I'll go and be president of the Politics Society, so we can be the government and media together, and life is good.
That's hilarious.
And that is exactly what happened 2 years later.
That's class.
Only through the two of us pushing each other. So
that's
it's
amazing.
Just where you recognise that someone is being a little bit ridiculous, they're probably the best people.
Yeah.
100%. The guys who I lived with in uni was chaos, but the guys who I ended up living with in the second year and third year, the first interaction I ever had with them at uni was on like the second night when we were out during Freshers Week.
Yeah.
And I saw them like just being carried by bouncers, and they were just like running around the club, just absolute chaos. It ended up being
like,
just like that.
Hooligans?
I was like, that looks so fun. And it ended up being like that throughout university, all throughout sort of chaotic adventures. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it's sort of that whole thing, a little bit less sort of, I mean, in certain ways, like your sort of journey as well. But yeah, I think it's a great example of how you can witness that, and then that carries on as well.
Yeah.
I think for you, like zooming out for other people as well, like that worked extremely well and is a brilliant story. For other people, their strengths might also be in different ways, you know, quieter ways, more sort of, I'm in this group here, whether it's, I don't know, chess society, for example, and you're supportive, or you're a good listener, whatever it is. It's also understanding your strengths. Yours was, okay, I'm going to rally people around, I'm good at that, I'm going to knock on all the doors and have the confidence to do so. We're not here saying you've got to go and knock on all the doors 100%. And be the party, be the host. It's like for Josh, that was your strengths. It's for you also knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and knowing, okay, this is what my spark is, and maybe you don't know that yet, and that's also okay, but just following your nose and following what maybe, you know, brings you interest or brings you intrigue, following that. And when you follow that, people will also be gravitating towards the same thing, and you'll be finding those people there, and you will find those connections in those sort of interests and in pursuing where your passions lie, I think. And also in putting yourself out there, which is a blooming brilliant thing to do. That's a hugely nerve-wracking thing to do. If you were to take that on and be like, I'm going to do that in my first year, for example, amazing, love that energy. If that does fall short, which it might do, that's also, please don't let that define yourself, because also people will not always take well to your energy. We're not all supposed to take on each other's energy well. Like we're billions of human beings. That's not possible. Please also don't let rejection define you, because rejection's a huge thing at university. It's 100%. Not massive, but it's something that to be acknowledged. Rejection is only in every facet of life, and I hate to use it because it is cliche, but rejection is redirection. And if those people don't want to give you the time and entertain your suggestions or whatever it is, other people will, and actually that they're just doing you a favor in letting you know that, okay, you don't need to put your energy and your time here. I'll find that elsewhere, and I will find my people. I will find my community.
100%.
Because what's beautiful about university and something that's so amazing is there are hundreds of thousands, if not in places like London Student Network, hundreds of thousands of other people who you can find those commonalities with, and you can find that, oh, you're going to be the editor-in-chief here and I'm going to be the whatever here. You can find those people just in your lanes.
It's why exploring your quirk is so important.
Exactly.
It's because it's being truly you and being authentic.
Yeah.
And from living that, whatever you want to call it, the universe can give you those connections because you're being you.
100%. And I think, again, practically, if you are that quiet person, know that people love to talk. And broadly speaking, there's this umbrella rule in life that I've always found to be true, and take it to networking events, anything like that, even with more senior people. A successful conversation is one where you have asked more questions than you have answered. The person will leave that feeling as though they're the most interesting person in the world, that they've really been heard, they've really been listened to. Nice. And you want to intrinsically listen. They've probably got something really interesting to say. And I'm a huge believer that every single person in this world, regardless of language, culture, educational disparity, can teach you something. 100%. If you put them in the right mood, you make them feel secure and comfortable, and you ask the right questions, everyone is interesting.
100%.
That's a really good point also, sorry to cut you off, but like have the open-mindedness and intrigue that one can benefit from adopting at university. And being like, I don't know this society, I don't know this culture, I don't know this religion, but what can I do? I can learn, and I can learn with like vulnerability and also just an open mind. And that's, everyone's there. What's such an amazing thing about university, and probably why I'm still as part of university over 10 years later, is that in itself, the continued learning and the continued development, and just all of these people coming together to learn more and to experience more. And in asking those questions, you're doing just that, and it's really exciting.
100%. I was going to say something before that. It sort of adds to your point nicely. It's a little bit sort of more shallow, but the same exact rule applies for whether it's sales or for even dating. It like applies across all these things, is being genuinely curious about what someone's going through, just asking a question. It works best, and it's actually how you can often find that community as well. It's just by doing that. So just be curious and be open-minded and adventurous, and you'll land in some really, really lovely places as well.
Sure. And it's through that curiosity you'll reveal a similarity that you never would have expected from a person.
100%.
Like the sort of strategic relationships that I formed from uni as a result of society work and meeting some like high profile politicians, the ones that stayed in my contact book or that I'm still in touch with, I just asked useful personal questions. How many kids you have? What are they doing? How's your health? Like, you know, you're obviously getting on a bit, like just being like that personal person. And then like, you know, random stuff's revealed, like a former minister had a recent knee surgery. I had a recent knee surgery, and then like,
Let's
bang,
go.
that's just like that tiny different thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to recognize that certainly in these opening times at uni, and then throughout uni for the kind of strategic connections and the networking and stuff, 90% of people are going to be asking the same questions. It's going to be routine, rinse and repeat. If you can just be that one person, be you confident or shy, lovable or likable, and just be the one person who has something a bit unique to say or to ask, that's going to go so far.
I know we are coming slowly towards wrapping up, but I have something that I experienced hugely at university. I still experience in my life now, which I touched upon at the beginning, but also my students who I supervise right now always bring to me. And I would love for us to maybe talk through this a little bit before we draw to a close, is comparison and looking laterally at, I think looking laterally at university is such a huge thing. And one of the reasons why, one of several, is because, as you said, it's the first time in your life you don't have this set structure, and therefore it's completely unknown. You have metrics of success, but in getting there, how on earth am I supposed to do this? How am I, even down to the granular of an assignment, how am I supposed to achieve this assignment? How am I supposed to get all of these grades? How am I supposed to maintain this social life? How am I supposed to feed myself? All of these things, you don't have that guidance. So what do? Naturally, you look laterally to other people and you compare yourself. Can be helpful socially, psychologically, can be helpful, but in a lot of ways, hugely detrimental.
Yeah. I think it carries on past uni as well, that sort of comparison, but specifically at university, that comparison's huge. Maybe even add in a sort of a little sprinkle of imposter syndrome. You don't feel like you should be in the first place, and then you begin to compare to people on your course who are doing well. Maybe these grades are being thrown in again, and you're chucked straight back to your schooling years, and you're like, well, I'm not necessarily good at school. I'm brought back to exams. I thought this was something that I'm good at.
And you've got that annoying know-it-all in the seminar who just won't shut up, and that kid asking questions in the lectures.
The right questions. Well, I didn't think to ask that. What's going on?
It's really, so I won't, I'm trying to be careful in how much I say, but in one of my teaching capacities, across the years I've been teaching, I had a seminar group, one student who was that student, who was the student who, on the surface, was achieving really well and was presenting well and was, even looked smart, all of the things, the whole package, so to speak, as a student. That student I knew from working with them was struggling so much, had no confidence, nothing, was just completely hated themselves basically, and had no self-worth. And all of this was a way of putting a mask and a plaster on all of that. It was let me get through all of this self-hatred by being this best version of this student that I can pretend to be. Yeah. However, all of these other students were looking at this student saying they've got it all together, they're annoying, I'm really resentful of them because all of these things. And that's just one prime example of this. Ironically, the student here is doing all of these things because they have self-loathing and they aren't satisfied with their life. They've got all of these things going on mentally, but it looks on the surface like everything's going so well, and it's just a really clean and clear example of we have no idea what anyone's going through. Nope. It's useful to have comparison in ways to say, oh, okay, well, roughly, I'm on a rough where I need to be in terms of completing this assignment or whatever it is, but ultimately any 1 million things could be happening and variables could be going on in any individual's life. So most of the time, it's completely futile. And actually, if we can go into university, whether it's our first year, second year, third year, wherever you're listening from, reminding yourself of that, and that every individual is just that, an individual with all of their own variables. Try not to let ourselves look too much to them and compare ourselves and therefore beat ourselves up, because they might be excelling in this one area, but Lord knows what is crumbling beneath that.
But they haven't eaten a proper meal in a week. Yeah.
So that's just something that I think is really important to say. I see in my students all of the time.
What would you say then are some tools and tips then for a student listening to this who maybe is comparing themselves to someone else? Like, what are some things that you can do if you feel that comparison as a student coming on? You have these sorts of doubts.
Well, I think it's reminding yourself of just that we are all individuals with all of our own lives going on. And just because what I see is like the 1% of their life, that's just that. It's the 1% of that person's life. Just how they see 1% of my life. They don't know, for example, arbitrary example, that I was crying on the way to work this morning and that this was, that not real, but my mum's got this illness or whatever's going on. They don't know any of that, and vice versa. I don't know any of that for them.
For sure.
And just in the power of reminding yourself of that and having that knowledge, that's so powerful in itself, of relinquishing that pain of that comparison and putting those people up here and me down here. For the audio listener, I'm putting someone higher than myself.
One hand is above the other.
Yes. And if you can just relinquish that in itself,
Yeah.
that takes so much power away from that comparison, because you're allowing yourself, and it does take constant work. Like I said, I'm literally learning Spanish alongside you and feeling sometimes innately frustrated that you can hold a conversation and I can't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I have to remind myself all the time, 10 years after my degree, that we have our own lives, our own brains, our own backgrounds.
And actually, there's a view where your success in Spanish is validating to your efforts because you've been going that bit further. So you know that if you do, then you get there. And so I think also recognizing that is that we do have these relative strengths and these relative weaknesses, and they should be really celebrated.
Yeah.
And we should look to find our own strengths amidst the uncertainty.
Huge.
And I think there's also this, very modern phenomenon through social media, and even in the context of something like a seminar, right? Like, we only hear about the best. And your friends are only going to tell you about their grades when they've got a first, or they've got, some impressive score for them, whatever it may be. They're not going to tell you about the bad stuff. They're embarrassed of that themselves. I know that I did that. Like, it's a very natural human thing to do. And it's really easy to get into these conversations of one-upmanship at uni of, I run XYZ societies, but I run XYZ and we've got more members than you and all this different stuff.
Yeah.
The reality is that everyone is very much on their own journey. And I think 100 years ago, when we were, speaking about the traditional route to psychology, for instance, you would have had to tread that path. You would have had to go through the motions and apply to, one of these jobs that was the psychologist's jobs. The reality in the 21st century is that, like, the world has never been more ours for the taking.
Yeah.
And so if actually, despite all of these practical lessons, you still feel and can convince yourself that you're not doing as well as other people, what an opportunity. That means that you're probably not doing the right thing, and you've got an entire chapter of your life to rediscover in a different area.
It's really, something I say to my students all the time is, you don't know that? How exciting. One of my first tutorials in recent times, I said about a psychological concept and none of them knew, which was partly on me, but anyway, I was like, that's great, we can all learn this together. And that's just one example of how if we can flip that and sit in our confidence of, okay, well, I do have strengths and I do have the ability to learn and to grow. Yeah. It's exciting that I don't know, because then I can take that on.
Yeah. And actually, you're paying 9k a year, 30k if you're an international student, to learn, to become better. You haven't been initiated into this university because you are what a third year should be. You've been initiated because you show an unusually high capacity for learning.
Yeah.
Exactly. Remember that.
Yeah. I suppose it all dials back to that identity point we were sort of speaking on first, is that being more flexible with your identity, tie into someone who's becoming, someone who is learning,
grace.
Instead of have grace for yourself and have that positive self-talk or that self-love, and be able to have that flexibility with who you see yourself to be, the noun, the role, the job title. Give yourself the flexibility and you'll unlock that chapter, as you were saying, to have so much more joy.
No, I think so. That's really, really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
For you guys, would you say there's anything kind of practical from your experiences that you've been able to overcome either imposter syndrome or this painful comparison throughout your life?
That's a really good question. Any sort of tangible tools or tips? I'd say for me to sort of get over the imposter syndrome, I'm sure we've all heard of it, but people say that whenever you're presenting, imagine someone, or imagine the whole audience naked, for instance. Not quite that, but if you're ever in a conversation where you feel like you don't belong, or somewhere where you feel like you don't belong, either remind yourself I have to physically tell myself, mentally, of my strengths, or be mentally remind myself that other person has a weakness.
Yeah.
It's not to put that person down, it's to bring it back to reality.
Yeah.
Those two things have to consciously happen. And that really helps me just stay grounded in what is this. I was saying this to you in, I think, one of our episodes about self-talk. It was something that if I'm ever in a conversation and I want to be quite emotionally present, I think it was about presence, I have this tool where I basically imagine us two, for instance, here at a bird's eye view. I'll literally picture in my mind us two talking here.
Yeah.
It allows me to
take myself
out of it, out of my person, and just realize it's just two people speaking.
Yeah.
It gets, because often so many of these things, imposter syndrome, negative self-talk, these are things happening in our own brain. They're not reality.
Yeah.
They're not reality at all. So just bring myself out, snapping out of that sort of self-loathing cycle, whether it be reminding, whether it be sort of fulfilling my sort of self, or just taking myself out of my own head.
Yeah.
It can bring me straight back to the reality and means a far more fruitful conversation as well.
That's fantastic. The kind of the lens of the imaginary third person, as it
Yeah.
were. The impartial spectator who reminds you that you're actually just on a floating rock having a chat with another person, and that the consequences of it are really minimal.
Exactly. Everyone's thrown up. Everyone's gone for a dump. It's normal. Like those
Yeah.
really weird things bring you back to reality.
True. So true. I think for me, it's reminding myself. It comes back to the always becoming, and you never become. Like the imposter syndrome, I feel like, and I'm not being deterministic about it, but I feel like we'll always innately be there on some level. We innately go to the negative self-talk, and therefore reminding myself in of itself that is okay, that I'm feeling that, and therefore I can do something about it. It's if I don't let it be me, and I don't let it define me. I'm like, this is a feeling that I'm having right now, but I can therefore move past it and do something about it, and I can challenge that. Whereas if I were to be like, imposter syndrome, I've tried for 5 years and I'm never going to feel worthy. That's that. No, it's something that we continually are having to work towards, and there are tips to do so. For me, it's I work internally on it as well, but it's finding a balance between the internal validation and the external validation. I got to the point where I got my PhD. I got my studentship, my scholarship for my PhD. And at that point I was like, oh, there must have just been a bad year of applicants. Going through my Viva, I was like, oh, I got through my Viva. That's really weird. They must have just like not really realized, or they must have just like not seen the errors or whatever, to even doing like the corrections and getting that. And I was just like, all of these external things of, I'm going to be found out soon. It took so much work after that of really sit with those external points of validation, those external points of reference. Seeing, for me, it was helpful having like the run club and seeing all of the people come together and being like, you can allow yourself, and I can allow myself the indulgence, but it's not even, it's just the normal observation, the indulgence of, I've done that, and that's an external point of reference that I can hold on to. So whether it's your GCSEs, whether it's your 2-1, which is a great grade, whatever those things are, something that I'm really bad at is externalizing those successes. Try not to externalize those successes, because yes, partly they are a product of your outside world, but that's your doing. You're creating your reality, and you're someone that is continually creating your reality. So if you've got good people around you, that's a reflection of you and who you are, and you should internalize that.
Really
that's not just because you've been lucky to find people. That's a mirror of yourself.
Yeah.
If you're getting a 2-1, which is a good grade, or even a first, even better, that's because you're putting in the work. All of those things require continuous reflection and internalization, and it's not one. That's what I mean. It's not one and done. And if you can go into it knowing that, it takes the power away from the beast that is imposter syndrome, because it's like, well, I already know you're going to be there, so how can I take you down? As opposed to just succumbing and being like, I can't stop this, so I may as well.
Almost planning for the existence of imposter syndrome in your work.
And
I like that.
I don't mean it to be deterministic. I mean quite the opposite. That actually we can do something about it.
Wow. I think all of that's really practical. And the advice that I heard, funny enough, on this recently was from Barack Obama, not a personal conversation, just a video.
Should clarify that.
And he was asked just really simply about, like, what was this person like? What was that person like? What was this person like? These huge historical figures that Obama had been lucky to know. He's like, what do you mean? They're just people.
Yeah.
They're just people. And, you have this big tendency when we look at these titans and famous people of the world to assume that they're superhuman. They've gone above and beyond and transcended our mortal capabilities and stuff like that.
Flaws, yeah.
You get into a room with them, and chances are, like, they eat shit and sleep like you do too.
Yeah.
And they are the common features to all of humanity that keep us grounded despite how complicated, competitive, and far removed from nature our society might be. The other big thing to bear in mind as well is that there's no billionaire who doesn't include the role of luck in a lot of what they do as well. And so even if you are the most successful person, you've overcome your imposter syndrome, the universe will act in weird and mysterious ways for you, regardless of what measures you've taken to control and to mitigate. And sometimes, like, the real test of your virtues and of your character is actually to go with the flow and not try and fight the current.
Surrender.
Yeah.
It's to surrender. It's something that we always speak about. We won't speak about it now, but let go of that battle that you have inside, and miraculous things. It's things that you might not know you want, but miraculous things will fall your way without much effort. It's truly beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really good.
There's so much more we can say.
Part 2 coming soon.
I'm having to be so...
Part 2 coming soon.
I've got something else I desperately want to say, but part 2 potentially.
100%.
I think very much part 2. How do we feel from that, everyone?
That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot.
So much, guys, and just so excited to have these, because you guys speak from slightly different angles. Like, now you're in the kind of teaching aspect. You're kind of reminiscing on memories that you've remembered and slightly miscounted from. So in so many ways for you, it's like the feelings of these. 100%. For you, it's like the kind of top-down level, and you see the actual influence on the students. And I think for me, I'm starting to move more towards your space. Like, I'm a recent graduate. Sure, I remember these different things, but really what I remember is the feelings throughout. And there were so many points of stress, and there were so many points of love, of anger, of life, and everything in between. And I think that's maybe the takeaway, is that uni is really whatever you want it to be. It is your ticket to freedom. And in that, it's your ticket to find yourself, to discover all of these different things, to learn what you don't like, to learn what you do. Crucially, to embarrass yourself. If you've got 3 years to
embarrass yourself, do it.
Yourself,
do
you
it.
have not done well at uni.
You must.
100%. There has to be some cringy story that will eat you up at night. Otherwise,
I've got some bad stuff.
I've got some bad stuff. It has to be
we
done.
all do.
It
has to be done. And just remembering, I suppose, that like this is a little 3-year period of your life.
It is.
Where you probably have a student loan. The government is paying you to be doing something like this. You've got, literally thousands of people probably in a building with you going through the same day-to-day experience. Don't let it pass you by. Don't get to the end of that 3 years saying, like, what have I done? Because if you speak to anyone in their 30s, in their 40s, when was the best period of your life? Oh, it was at uni when I was with my mates down the pub, whatever it may be. Life at this stage is as simple and as complicated as it's going to be. I say that because your day-to-day is actually so unbelievably simple. And we thrust all of the complications on ourselves because we're thinking and projecting our studenthood into professionalhood, as it were. And so really to kind of loop the conversation full circle, I think being present in the moments that you have as a student is the best and the only way that you can really be a student.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That was phenomenal. Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys.
I don't want to add anything more to that. I think we leave it there.
Yes.
That was incredible. Well, yes.
Yeah, for our listeners, where can we find you, Josh?
lsn.uk on Instagram, londonstudentnetwork.com online if you want to check out the platform I've committed the last 2 years of my life to building.
It's incredible.
Or the student scene on Spotify.
Very nice on Spotify.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Okay,
lovely.
Awesome. And then for my listeners, where might we find the Mood Booster?
It's the Mood Booster official on all socials.
Yeah.
The Mood Booster podcast on all streaming platforms, and our website is themoodbooster.co.uk.
Go check out the website, please. It took me so long to build it.
The
the Wix is not easy.
As an outside of both, I could say both are incredible. Very proud of both. Yes. Come and join the community though, please.
100%. And the Run Club, the Monday Mood Booster Run Club. Join us on Monday evenings.
Lovely job.
There is a way for you.
So we do ASMR. I do ASMR when Charlie turns off the mic. So should we do some ASMR while he's turning the mics off?
I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Thanks
this
so
is
much.
LSN and the Mood Boost.